Смотрите, вот так реально выглядит секретный подземный бункер.
This is what a secret underground bunker located between North and South Korea really looks like. It was really used during the war between the two countries. I'm Lyadov, and this is how people live. This time I visited South and North Korea. 70 years ago, a country once united split in two. North Korea, along with the Soviet Union, began building socialism, while the South, helped by the US and the West in general, began creating capitalism. Moreover, the South nor the North were really asked about what they wanted. That's how it played out historically. How about taking a look at the results?
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.
This time I brought back some goodies. A Korean traditional drink called soju, funny socks which Koreans adore, and a dope hat with the symbols of the Olympics, which took place in South Korea not so long ago. I'll have a giveaway on my Instagram account, so subscribe. But right now, write a comment here on YouTube about which Korea you'd like to live in, and at the end of the episode you can see if the answer will change or not. Like this video and subscribe. We've also set up a donation possibility. The link will be in the description. There's an awesome thing at the airport in South Korea. Things that people tried to smuggle on board were confiscated and made into a whole stand. The bomb that someone tried to hide under their testicles is not as interesting as the North Korean literature, photos and stamps lying in the corner. I've actually got some North Korean postcards on me, and a whole lot more. Let's see if it will affect me. In my suitcase I've got a uniform with a flag of North Korea on it, as well as postcards with machine guns on them, and the slogan, "Let's protect our leader Kim." Now I wasn't planning a revolution in South Korea or anything, I just took them as souvenirs for gifts. But ever since the war, so for the last 66 years, the flag of North Korea has officially been banned in South Korea. It also gets burned from time to time. This is what happened when the South Korean president was planning on meeting with Kim Jong-il. And finally, the tension between the two countries is still so intense that the day that I arrived in Seoul, two fishermen from North Korea arrived in South Korea on a hijacked ship. They had gone fishing in a big group. Two of them had decided, hey, why not just sneak round into South Korea? 16 others didn't support the idea, so the two fishermen just shot them, took the helm of the ship, and made it to South Korea, expecting to be welcomed. Usually the South Korean side accepts defectors. I'll even meet one personally. But this time they were deported back to North Korea, because they are not refugees, they are criminals. Some sort of crap occurs at the border all the time. Now behind that bridge is the North Korea that I love so much. South Korea has now seriously restricted access to the demilitarized zone at the border with North Korea, as some sort of new virus has been discovered here. People are being told a version that the virus is coming from the north. South Korean border guards have a code word, and it's a new word every day. If you're asked for the code word and you've forgotten it, you'll be shot for possibly being a North Korean spy. Such cases have genuinely occurred in the past. Yulia, whom I met on YouTube, and her friend Hyung Tae take me to the border zone. Hyung Tae just recently finished serving in the South Korean army. When he was in the army, for example, they had this entire banner that said, "Kim Jong-un, if you see him, you'll have to kill him." Recently, North Koreans tried to dig 4 secret underground tunnels. Actually, a bunch of bunkers had been left at the border. The longest tunnel ended just 40 kilometers short of the South Korean capital and could allow for up to 30,000 soldiers to pass through every hour. It was discovered because of vapors coming from the ground. Using the tunnel, it was possible to transfer a huge army from the north to the south in about 4 minutes. This explains why South Koreans don't even let ordinary civilians from the north enter into the country. Generally, they are very attentive to the fact that someone might have been to North Korea before. This is why I took another passport to travel here. I've got 2 passports. So I didn't bring the one that I used to go to North Korea. To travel to South Korea, a Russian citizen doesn't need a visa. That's the first distinction. It took about a month to get approved to travel to North Korea. This is what crossing the border in South Korea looked like. I hand over my passport. She didn't even look through it. She didn't even check to see what visa schmeezers I'd got. She didn't give a hoot. And this is how it happened in North Korea. I traveled there by train. We're at Pyongyang railway station. We just got off the train. We hadn't even gotten off the train, but our tour guide had already recognized us. Anton? I was getting out and he was standing and waiting for me at the window. Next, when I got off the train, it was immediate. I couldn't take a step without bumping into the tour guide. And now we've all gathered together, and we're moving along our programme, which is very clearly scheduled. It's impossible to even suggest that we deviate from our pre-planned programme. But you'd be mistaken to think that South Koreans just let me do whatever, wherever, and didn't give a damn. In South Korea, you go wherever you want to, by yourself, as much as you want to, and whenever you want to. But they've got these CCTV posters up everywhere. This means that surveillance cameras keep track of everyone who just walks on the street, rides the subway. You know how much they survey? Everything, 24/7. I've never seen as many surveillance cameras as there are in South Korea anywhere else. Static cameras, moving cameras, tracking pedestrians, passengers, those throwing out the trash, entering apartment buildings and motels, outside buses, inside buses, double, triple, quadruple cameras, on posts, on overhangs. There are cameras installed right on the top of cameras. As a result, there's virtually no crime in the country. If we look at the number of robberies in the US in 2017, the number is 319,000. In South Korea, the number is under 1,000. People don't mind leaving their cars open. All colleges have no security. Enter as you like, no one will mind. People know perfectly well that they are under surveillance. There's a sign next to each camera. For example, this one takes pictures, and this one records everything that happens within a 100-meter radius. Hidden cameras are forbidden in the country. These servicemen who I met on the subway even had the lenses of their cameras taped with the word security, because God forbid they should otherwise take some unnecessary pictures and leak them to the north. South Korea is one of the few developed countries with compulsory military service. They serve for 2 years and are paid $400 a month. But there's another reason for fighting hidden cameras in South Korea. Absolutely everywhere in town, all over the South Korean subway, we see no spy camera signs hanging. This means that we can't take photos secretly, which is why South Korean iPhones and Samsungs will only allow you to take a photo with the sound of a flash. Even if you turn off the sound of your phone, the sound of the flash will still be there. The sound of the flash will be heard. This is regulated at the legislative level. One reason for this, among others, is that lots of men enjoy taking photos under the skirts of South Korean women who happen to really enjoy wearing short skirts. This is a massive phenomenon, especially when women are taking escalators. The punishment for this is wild, 5 years in prison. In 2017, there are 5 times more arrests for this than robbery. The problem got so big that tens of thousands of women came out in protest. The president of the country commented on all this. Security cameras were discovered in clocks. There's a lens here where the number 10 is. Cameras in hangers, even in bottles of Coca-Cola.
Jesus Christ, seriously?
In Pringles cans, in toilet cleaner bottles. Under the label, there's a recording system. Cameras were found in toothpaste tubes, in notepads. Seoul City Hall even created a whole department of inspectors who looked for hidden cameras in malls, hotels and gyms. All these recordings had been leaked and uploaded onto the internet. It's hard to say why such unusual forms of erotica are especially enjoyed here, but cases of a man first rubbing himself against a sleeping woman's leg on the subway and then trying to harass her, with her screaming her lungs out at him afterwards, are relatively frequent here. It'd be impossible to film such videos in North Korea. You wouldn't be allowed to go in and do it. But I asked Orientalist professor Andrei Lankov about the sexual lives of North Koreans. He lived and studied there for 10 months, attending Kim Il-sung University in Pyongyang, and is still well connected with North Korea. Is there prostitution? There's prostitution in small amounts. We're talking railway stations. All sorts of local madams have come out, and they're ready to rent out a room with a lady for a couple of hours. It's all there. In hotels, it practically doesn't exist in hotels. I'm starting to hear gossip that sometimes, very rarely, something happens in hotels. There's practically no prostitution for foreigners. They've got their own local railway station prostitution. It's modest, but it's there. If someone unbearably needs some, it's possible. Curious viewers are sure to ask, how much a prostitute costs? Oh, I don't know. The railway station numbers out there are very low. $10 to $20 per session. Now seriously, since the separation of Korea into North and South, key decisions in both countries have been based on their desire to show off in front of each other. For example, the South built a 98-meter tall flagpole at the border. The North responded by building the same kind of pole, but almost 2 times the size, 160 meters. South Koreans sent balloons up north with propaganda postcards, and also stuffed them with candy, food, and even porn, so as to say that they've got nothing and they should try some. North Koreans build a propaganda village that can be seen from the North Korean side. They've claimed that 200 families live there. When we zoom in, we can see 3 people max, and the windows don't even look like they've been installed. North Korea really beat South Korea when it opened its subway. They did it in 1973, and the South did it in 1974. This is what both subway systems look like today. The newest train in North Korea is 37 years old. They were manufactured in a country that no longer exists, in the German Democratic Republic. The newest trains in South Korea appear every year. They're manufactured locally. In North Korea, there are 2 lines. In South Korea, oh boy, I'm not even going to start counting. I'll just tell you that you can easily take the subway to go to another city 100 kilometers away. There's virtually 2 or even 3 ways to go from any one stop to another. If we compare this to New York, then we can say that I'm in JFK Airport right now. Now on the right, we've got normal trains that make every stop. They'll take 1 hour and 20 to get to the city centre. On the left, we have the Rapid Express, a super fast train. It'll make it to the city centre in 40 minutes. The ticket costs the equivalent of $1. In North Korea, the price is 5 won for locals, which is almost free. If you consider that 8,000 won is $1 and the train ride costs 5 won, the number of stations in the north is 12 and the south is 316. This number is even bigger than in the oldest subway in the world, in London. They managed to build only 270 stations since the 19th century. Some stations in North Korea look like fully fledged railway stations. For example, Yongsan Station. There are 6 platforms here, which means 12 trains are going somewhere simultaneously. Changeovers between stations are full-fledged malls. Shops are not only located between the stations, but on the platforms as well. You can shop while you wait, and you can buy not only newspapers, but eggs and sausages. They've got their own fridge here. A local delicacy of fried silkworm larvae. You'll get a cup for $2 at every subway exit. North Korean tour guides will tell you that their subway is the deepest in the world. The South Korean subway is the shallowest in the world. So you'll have cell phone coverage almost everywhere here. And there are 3 Wi-Fi routes in every train, which allows you to go online. But you'll need a local SIM card. North Korea does not have the internet. And to call abroad, you have to fill in some documents. Your call will be monitored. You can call abroad from here. There's a special cabin. The phone is on a mat with fringes and roses. Very beautiful. 1 minute costs €1. That's the price for Russians. Americans pay €5 a minute. Here's another South Korean system that is mind-blowing. Each subway train has at least 2 seats for pregnant women. Moreover, in some places like here, there's a soft toy lying around. They've got another super device. Pregnant South Koreans are often shy to push someone's knee, to kind of say, hey, why are you sitting? Well, each pregnant woman in South Korea can get a special trinket with a built-in chip. When they approach a seat that's occupied, a device next to the seat will go off. It recognizes the chip's frequency and emits a quiet sound. The person sitting down immediately gets up. In that sense, Koreans are mega disciplined. Holy crap, look at how Koreans line up as they wait for the train. Carefully. They've got neat lines going in each door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. They do it themselves. Nobody's asking them to do it. There's no rules here or anything. They're like this in all aspects of life. Here's a typical reaction to an accident inside a tunnel. Deep in the tunnel, someone had a crash and there's no way to get through. It takes 2 minutes for everyone to simultaneously move over and allow a tow truck through to clear the accident. I've just started to walk across a pedestrian crossing, and the device over the traffic light is saying, no, you can't cross, there's a red light. And this is a children's play area. Many traffic lights here are built into the asphalt, and you don't even need to raise your eyes from your phone to see if a red or green light is on. That's how they take care of phone zombies, i.e. people who can't take their eyes off their screens even when crossing the street, and regularly bang into posts. If you do completely zone out and end up walking a red light, special posts will emit vapour. No seats left on the subway or the bus? But you're feeling sleepy? Be our guest, a pillow is built into the window. Just lean in and sleep. An app on your phone will wake you when you reach your stop. The people are organised like nowhere else. Look at their bums. A neat cover, a mat that keeps the cold out. Their things are carefully put away near their feet.
During
roadworks, Koreans are cautious enough to lay a felt rug on the ground. Here it is. It's done so that dust can be lifted off the ground and won't spread across the neighborhood. Good for them, huh? Technology is at every step. Beer that's poured through the bottom. Take a look. The system raises the magnet at the bottom of the glass and fills it 9 times faster than pouring beer from the top. As a bonus, there's no foam. Suitcases that follow their owners by themselves. Talking toilets with a bunch of buttons, and they're installed absolutely everywhere. In poor and rich households, in malls, and even in the subway. Here's the apartment of my translator, Sonia. Massage? Yeah. Using water. A water massage. Whoever's got a problem with their behind, or who has trouble going to the bathroom, it helps. You do a massage. I don't do it. Gaming clubs with augmented reality can be found at nearly every subway stop. They're these booths. You enter and you find these hanging glasses, and you connect to the TV. An hour will cost you the equivalent of $3.50. Computer clubs are like a religion for Koreans. Professional gamers make millions of dollars here. Streams are even streamed on television. The commentary is done in such a voice that you'd think you're watching the North Korean news. This is the world of Tank Street. South Korea is one of the strongest teams. It's sold out, and people can line up in the hall to watch. This beautiful host is probably not the reason for the lines. So they mix vodka and beer.
We fucking call it Yorsh. It's like Mora grog. This was the drink of louts. You got to understand that everybody is 100% lout here.
The traditional alcohol of Korea is called soju. It's not too strong, about 20% alcohol by volume, half of vodka. They think this is vodka. Yeah, this is their vodka. First soju and half a glass of beer. Yorsh, motherfucker. It's just our normal Yorsh. Fuck. Did you hit it hard? Just Yorsh, beer and vodka, just the 20% alcohol kind. I'll give away a bottle just like that at the very end. South Korean stores are a whole new world. The stand where they sell fruits, bananas. Okay, so bananas are bananas, right? They're the same all over the world. Look at how they sell them. This package is called Daily Banana. The box has bananas of various ripeness. On the left is the most ripe. You can devour it today. The following ones gradually get greener. Every day you have a banana that ripens at home, and you eat an ideally ripe banana, not overripe or underripe. If we compare the store to a North Korean one that tourists get taken to, then visually there's not much difference. When you enter a supermarket in North Korea, there's even a karaoke at the entrance. Look at the letters run. You can stop and sing, but patriotic songs, of course. They didn't think of that in South Korea. There's other technologies here. You'd think this stuff is a typical fleece blanket, standard stuff, but no way. It's got this connector thing here where you attach a remote. This kind of remote is connected, and you warm yourself up as much as you need while you sleep, and you don't have to cuddle when you don't need to. Koreans love them. There's a huge selection of these blankets, a huge selection of these remotes. One Korean lady told me how she gave such a blanket to a Russian as a gift. The dude was surprised and didn't end up using it, because he was sure the motherfucking thing would burn down. That wouldn't be my reaction. A can of imported beer costs $2 in South Korea, and $1 in net worth. A bottle of Coke costs $2 in the South. In the North, they don't sell American cola. The local variety costs 15 cents. A carton of milk is $1.50 in South Korea. In North Korea, it costs $3 because there's almost no cows that are bred specifically for milk. In my first episode from North Korea, I showed interviews with locals who told me that they got a lot of goods for free using cards. As it turns out, this applies to only select North Koreans.
По талонам давным-давно никому ничего не выдают.
It's been a long time since anybody's gotten anything for food stamps. The government doesn't have the money, nor the desire. Lately there's not only a lack of resources, but also a lack of desire to fully support this system. It's a privilege, and it's there for those working in strategic industries, or for the groups of people among whom it would be highly undesirable to have the emergence of rebellious moods. It's clear that if some sort of riot starts in some godforsaken town such as Iochi, then it's possible to suppress it, and no one will know about it for a few years. But it'd be undesirable for the authorities if you have some unrest in Pyongyang, so Pyongyang gets fed. The prices that will have your eyes popping out are meat. Good quality meat will cost you over $50. That's the price for half a kilo. So if you want a kilo, you'll need more than $100. South Korea itself is very small, and land for breeding cows is very expensive. That's why Korea officially has the most expensive beef in the world. Not only beef. Petrol costs incredible amounts in South Korea. Have a look. I'm at a gas station right now. The price is 2,250 won for 1 litre.
That's $1.8 for 1 litre of petrol. That's just fucked up. It costs $1 to take a bus. In Russia, the price is 50 cents. A Big Mac costs $4.50. In Russia, the price is twice less.
The middle bun is much bigger than back home. There's more bread here. It seems to be more satisfying. For the rest, it's a carbon copy. All I bought was a Coke, a Big Mac, fries, and corn soup. It comes with all meals here. The South Koreans offer it.
All this costs the equivalent of $5.
McDonald's ain't cheap here. Absolutely everything is expensive here. Guess how much my translator's parents' apartment costs? The one that had a toilet with a massage for problems with the rear. The apartment is big, but it's located in another city. It takes an hour to get to the centre of Seoul. $200, $300, $450 or $600,000. What do you think? Check it out. There's even an elevator button inside the apartment so you don't have to wait for it. While you put your shoes on and tie your laces, the elevator will make it up.
What's the price of the apartment? 600,000. Yes, in this neighborhood.
Wow. How long can it take for a Korean to make that much money? If somebody works in a big company, then they earn $3,000 or $4,000. They earn that. Yes, they do. Do Koreans take out mortgages? Do you know what a mortgage is? Yes, a mortgage. It's a loan. And yes, we get them. What's the rate? The rates vary from 3%? From 3? Yes. How wonderful. For us, the number is 11%. 11? Yes. And that's nowadays. 5 years ago, it was just short of 20%. High prices in South Korea are a sign of a high standard of living. According to the British company The Economist Group, Korea is the 19th in the world in terms of standard of living, on par with Israel, Japan and Austria, wherein South Korea is ranked 16th on the list of the most expensive countries. Renting an apartment in the capital will cost a minimum of $500. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you have to leave a huge deposit. We don't have that in Russia. A deposit? Yes, a deposit. Well, we do have deposits in Russia, but it's for 1 month of rent.
So say you rent an apartment for $700 in Russia.
Then that's what you've got to pay for your deposit. You guys have an insanely huge deposit. If you rent an apartment for $500, then am I right to assume that the deposit could be $2,000? No, $20,000. $20,000. Yes. $20,000 and sometimes $30,000.
Here you'd have to prove that you're solvent by depositing such amount for the duration of your stay.
Housing prices are so insane that people live with their parents for decades. This young lady with the wonderful Korean accent is Hyun Yen. We met her on YouTube. She's got a very interesting channel where she speaks of South Korean things. Subscribe to it. The link is in the description. Now she graduated from university a long time ago. She got a job. She's 28 and she lives with her parents. What's the appropriate age to live with one's parents here? Until about 30 years old? Okay, so explain this to me. You live with your parents until 30? But how about having a relationship? With the parents? No, not with the parents. With a lady, for example, say you're a man. You're 28, like me. You go out with a woman and you want to make love to her to have sex. Yes. How do you do it? You take her home to your parents? Usually in Korea, it's not customary to introduce your girlfriend or boyfriend to your parents. Usually Koreans hide the fact that they're going out from their parents. Why? Because it's convenient that way. We don't have the obligation to get married, but parents will still ask questions. If I tell them that I've got a boyfriend, they ask you where you're going to live. Of course. In North Korea, guys and girls are very dependent on their parents in terms of who they date. There's no notion of dating here. What you can do here is choose your own bride, but only after school, after turning 21 or after university. In actual fact, only a third of the people choose their own brides. The rest choose brides based on the recommendation of their parents. Somebody could literally be married to someone who they don't even know, just because someone's in a good position. In South Korea, it's not as hardcore. Okay, then where do they? Where do they go? Where do they meet? Where do they have sex? This is why we have motels over here, where you can rent a room for 2, 3, 4 hours, etc. Or you can book a night, 24 hours. How much does it cost? Depends on the neighborhood. Usually it costs about $40 to get a room for 2 or 4 hours. Love motels are a huge industry in Seoul. You can see them at every turn. All the rooms are soundproof. Condoms are given out at reception. These are the locations where the biggest number of cameras can be discovered. Here, for example, someone installed a candid cam into the rack of the blow dryer. The motel rooms don't only have beds, for variety's sake, they put in baths. Here they even installed a tent. You know, it's kind of romantic, sex in a tent. You'd be wrong to think it's the guy paying for all of this. No way. If the guy paid for dinner, then the girl pays for the hotel. That's the way it is here. If a couple goes out to see a movie, then the guy will pay for the tickets. And the popcorn, so on, is the girl. To meet a Korean girl here, behaving like an alpha male won't cut it. The guys whom I stayed with have been living in Korea for about 4 years and know what they're talking about. It's not going to cut it to turn on macho mode, like you're Mr. Cool. If you say something smoother, they'll take a step back from it. So the idea is that I'm about to ask a question, so they get themselves ready for it, rather than being a wisecrack, because then they'll think, huh? What did he just say? Your best bet is to invite a girl to a nice place. Oh hi, he's very curious, so he can steal. Steal the camera. They say the raccoon really liked me. There are South Korean coffee shops that you can visit and have coffee with dogs, or rent yourself a raccoon. Oh lord, wow, they're going crazy. Do I smell of something? What's up with you? Hello. Dude, I've eaten dogs. The raccoon is the most cunning. It goes through your pockets. I've got my wallet in my hand on purpose, as I've been warned that it will take absolutely everything you've got in your pockets out. Your passport, your cash, and it eats it all. If you take your girlfriend out to eat a dog, it'll be a fiasco. The youth in South Korea don't eat dogs and don't understand how this could be possible, but they do eat live octopus. It's running away from me. I'm picking it up and it's running. I'm gonna take you. Look, it's fighting for its life. Oh my, it's an octopus. I'm about to eat an octopus this way. Sea urchin, live squid. This thing's called a sea cucumber, although it looks like an unshaved... Can I not say it? On the first floor, you gather your creatures and then take them to the restaurant on the second floor. This is hardcore. They cooked the octopus, they cut it, and they served us. But it's still moving. This is unreal. You're about to utter ooh right about now. It's actually uncooked. All they did was just cut it. It's hardcore. I've never eaten anything like it. I'm afraid of octopuses for real. I have to eat it. Motherfucker. It's getting glued to my gums, still moving, but it tastes good. You have to chew it for a while. And also, how do you say it? It gets glued to... They're biting my... Wait for it. This isn't as hardcore as it gets. Let's try that sea cucumber. You know when you happen to fall off a bike and you get this big scratch on your leg and eventually it closes up, then you peel off the skin on top and you chew it? This is the same thing, except it's much thicker. I don't agree. You don't agree? I don't. Have you ever tried eating skin peels? Of course not. No? Well, I have. The rest of it is just slime. A slug shaped like a crocodile. Some weird thing that I call a sea eggplant. There's more slime inside. Here's some sort of thing in a shell, and inside you've got one more type of slime. You know the slime you have in your stuffy nose during a cold? Now imagine you put your mouth into the sea with its salty water. So you have slime mixed with seawater in your mouth. That's about how this feels. The cost of it is not cheap, $56 for 2 people, and you can only pay in cash. Hard to believe, but true. In the super technological country where some toilets know how to do more than us, your payment card won't be accepted everywhere. Far from it. In North Korea, as cards are not accepted anywhere in the country, don't even bother trying to use one. Korean wons are not trusted by anyone, so I end up paying with a mix of euros, dollars, and even Chinese yuan. So, say they ask you to pay $6. You can pay $4, €1 and 8 yuan, something like that. North and South Korean people have a lot in common. For example, Northerners have a strange way of resting. They squat down in the middle of the road, just to take a break or make a phone call. The same thing happens in the South. Look at this trio squatting and chilling on the sidewalk. North Koreans have a rigid hierarchy, and you can't, for example, just go and sweep off rainwater off a roof by yourself. Here we have a supervisor pointing in the direction that the sweeping is to be done. In South Korea, they've got the same thing. Here are some dudes laying tiles, and a supervisor's pointing at bags and where and how to put them. They have strange superstitions in North Korea. For example, when a woman goes to maternity hospital, her husband's things go with her. In South Korea, they've got another oddity. They're afraid of the number 4. The Korean sign representing the number 4 looks exactly the same as the word for death. So you'll never find a number 4 in an elevator. They replace it with the letter F, meaning 4 in English. If we talk tech, then there's a bigger difference. Road markings are painted with paintbrushes in North Korea, maybe even children's brushes. In the South, they use an automatic lining machine. There's almost no advertising in North Korea. The only faded poster that I discovered was an ad for minibuses. In South Korea, there are thousands of screens. Sometimes you can have an ad up on 2 plasma screens simultaneously, 2 screens next to each other showing the same thing. In North Korea, old women sell on inverted boxes in the courtyards. In South Korea, they've got special retail outlets that are movable. One can drive them from one spot to another. In the faraway villages of North Korea, people live in real shacks. There's a man behind me working the earth with a real hoe. There's also a woman further behind him who's tearing out the grass with her hands. I'm here 5 kilometers from Pyongyang. Here in South Korea, nobody tears grass using their hands. I haven't even seen any bulls. I mean bulls plowing the ground. This is a normal practice. Ordinary residents have hired workers who know how to drive a tractor. For comparison's sake, this is what the South Korean countryside looks like. For starters, the road is of an amazing quality. Next, the sidewalk is fenced off and is paved with tiles, better than what you'd see in some cities. And a house, literally the first house that we happened to stop by, it's about a 2-story brick house. There are cars parked here, a BMW and a Hyundai. Both North and South Korean men have an interesting quality. They're obsessed with fashion. In the North, they wear suits with short sleeves. In the South, they've come up with a mega life hack to seem taller. They're these little heels for men that are put into shoes. As a result, the person seems approximately 2 centimeters taller. I mean, it's a known fact that South Korean men are not very tall, and they're a little bit insecure about it. So in no case can a couple have a man shorter than a woman. South Korean men are a whole separate topic. Cosmetic stores here have entire male departments. Patches to hide your nipples? Nipples, yes, nipples. They hide your nipples. When men put on a white t-shirt or shirt, then sometimes you can see a bit of the nipples. Special pads for armpits to absorb the sweat. An extra belt under the trousers to keep the shirt in place. This holds your shirt. Razor blades for men's legs. They've got this picture of a woman kind of saying, "Gross, you've got disgusting legs." She's even tearing up a bit. And then you shave and she's like, "Oh good, let's go pretty boy." Now it's not only legs that they shave. Koreans almost have no hair on their heart. On their chest. You mean right here? We're speaking about the chest. Men don't have hair on their chest. No chest hair on Korean men. Almost none. Oh wow, in Russia there's a lot. If you put your shirt on like this, and there's some hair that you can see sticking out from the shirt, is that beautiful? Is it considered normal? Yes, in Russia it's totally normal. Some men even open up their shirt a little wider on purpose. This is what Korean sex symbols look like. Don't think that I'm trying to judge, just pointing to the fact that we've got very different singers. The top look for Korean men is earrings, blush, and bright makeup. A lot of them have plastic surgery. South Korean plastic surgery is of magical proportions, Lord Voldemort style, for men and women. Take note that a second eyelid is the most common procedure, because an ordinary Korean eye, seen on the top picture, doesn't have one. Now this is where the most interesting office is. They do boobs here. Yes, boobs. First, the woman comes in and stands in front of the mirror. They take photos of her from all sides, all that business. Then they choose the implants. It's kind of cool that South Korean law used to forbid the insertion of silicone. You know what they inserted? These things. They squeezed them, they put them into the breasts, using the belly button to get them in. Then they filled them with salt water. That was totally fucked up. Now they put in normal silicone, if I may say so. This is considered to be a cheap implant, because it's a teardrop shape. the shape of a breast. Why cheap? Because implants tend to turn from time to time. So your boob flips over. Well, a girl's, there's also this kind of teardrop shaped one. Man, I've got a feeling that it doesn't even look like a boob. Feels like those bags with milk, if you remember them from back in the day. If you squeeze it, it's like having a bag of milk in your hand. Now this one is top notch. This is the most expensive implant.
Surgeries with this implant start at $12,000. So at the very least, it will cost $12,000 in South Korea to have quality boobs put in.
Well, it's kind of cool. Okay, I don't know, I didn't touch them in their implanted state, but here they're nice to the touch.
That's about how $12,000 boob implant should feel.
In Korea, your appearance is seen like a factor that can give you an advantage. At work, amongst other things. At work and in general. Yes, you heard that right. Looking good in Korea can give you the edge when looking for a job. Right now, the level of unemployment among the youth is at its highest in the last 20 years. It's 23%. 1 out of 5 young Koreans is without work. How did this happen? Koreans get used to fierce, brutal competition from early childhood. For example, to get an A in school, it's not enough to do all the test examples, but you have to solve them the best of all. 30% must necessarily get C's and D's. Your grade depends on others. Yes, on other students. The Korean government exam is called Sunyoung. It is made up in such a way that it's nearly impossible to get a grade that's 100 out of 100. The exam itself lasts 8 hours. The day of the Korean governmental exams is said to be the most important day of a Korean's career. Life in the country literally comes to a standstill. The working day of absolutely all the offices in every city starts an hour later, so as to prevent morning traffic when the students are on their way to the exam. Every subway stop has motorcycle police on duty. They're ready to give the students a lift in case someone is running late. Planes even stop flying for the time of the exams. Plane takeoffs literally get delayed while the students are listening. This is done so that no turbine can muffle the assignment that the students are listening to. Instead of being told to break a leg, Korean students get a good unwinding. In Korean, to solve a problem is to unwind it. So the students receive toilet paper emojis. Actually, the toilet theme is very open here. The most popular emoji in Korean apps, as a side note, they don't use WhatsApp or Telegram. They've got their own KakaoTalk messenger. The most popular emoji is I took a poo. Look, it's sitting on the toilet. My first thought was that it's some kind of metaphor, meaning I've done my stuff and now I'm free and ready to meet. No, it's the direct meaning. Yes, I pooped. Even my question seemed strange to her. Back to the exam. School children literally get ready for it all their life. The last year is especially hardcore. From 8 to 5, they're in class. Then they have lunch for an hour. From 6 to 11, they study on their own. The evening session isn't in school, but in a special rented room. You rent a spot with a table and a lamp, and nothing else. The competition is 120 people per one spot in the top 3 South Korean universities. This is still considered to not be a lot. Basically, everyone is so smart that in the last 20 years, the number of people with a higher professional degree has quadrupled in South Korea. As a result, 80% of graduates were looking for a job, but only 30% of available jobs required higher education. Employers started to hire not just good experts, but the best ones. The guys that I'm staying with are studying programming, and are well versed in the subject. It's hard to get into Samsung. Yeah, Samsung's really difficult. There's about 4 steps there. If you look at the stats, only 10% get in, and they're all geniuses. We know a guy who worked at Samsung for 3 years as an Android developer, and one time we asked him, "Why did you leave?" He answered, "Those were my 3 hardest years. I don't want to go back there." The work shift is approximately 13 hours, and he also had a family as a small child, and he only had Sundays to spend with his family. He says, Saturday is officially a day off, but because I have a lot of work to do, I go to work to work. But if you do end up in a big company, then you'll make at least $3,000. The average salary here is $3,800 after taxes. If you get a master's, a PhD, and go up the career ladder, my acquaintances from Samsung told me he makes about $7,000. How old is he? I don't know. Approximately? I'd say 28, 29? Wow. Not everyone can withstand the insane pressure that people constantly live in starting from school. South Korea tops the list of the number of suicides. Most often they eat barbecue briquettes or throw themselves off this bridge. fences didn't used to be so tall. It was easy to climb over them. The government installed new barriers, put up a bunch of signs telling people to call 911. Crossing the bridge now, you get goosebumps. The railings have inscriptions such as, "Are you sure you called your mum? Maybe it's a better idea to grab a coffee. You're actually beautiful." A typical situation, you've got someone about to jump off. Over there in the distance, there's a rescuer climbing down from above, and the person's trying to get away from him. The rescuer makes it and grabs the man by the arms at the last moment and hugs him like a child. But that doesn't always happen. There's a special division of rescuers working in Seoul. Their job is to stop potential suicides. These dudes wearing masks usually don't catch them, but jump into the water after the person has taken the plunge. Visibility is not good in the Han River, but our team will search for the body until they find it, to return it to the family. Those that can be saved are taken to hospital. By the way, Korean hospitals are out of this world.
Тут вроде как палаты.
You've got wards over here, emergency. People come here and take a number. It all looks like a huge mall. They've got a reception desk, there's a Starbucks over there. The underground floor has restaurants. This is... Do you know how much doctors make? An annual salary could be about $100,000 minimum. So that's a minimum of 530,000 rubles a month. At the same time, each Korean must pay $100 a month for state health insurance, and another for private health insurance, because state insurance covers only half the problems. Koreans don't mind spending cash on this, because they know that their ability to work and make money depends on their health, and they work hard wearing themselves out. Okay, so I've got my boss. I'm totally fine to approach him and talk to him and tell him of my problems, but a Korean won't go to him. A Korean will endure and keep the problems to themselves. He's got to live with it. Yes, he's unhappy, and he'll sit there crying by himself, but he won't say anything. It's the culture. It really is their culture. Just like our grandparents, Koreans were brought up the hard way. They know the price they paid to have their high level of living, and the skyscrapers at every corner. When the Koreans separated, South Korea was the poorest state ever. To get a cup of rice, you had to work hard for a month. The capital didn't have electricity or running water. Ri Syng-man, the head of state, who was put in place by the Americans, turned out to be a dictator named Maseno. He killed his opponent, falsified elections. He stuffed the ballots by more than 100%, about 146%. You wouldn't believe it, but people from the south fled to North Korea because it was prospering. Kim Il-sung collected money from the Soviet Union and China, and everything was awesome. Soon after, a new ruler comes to power in South Korea, Park Chung-hee. He is called the Korean Stalin. On the one hand, what he does is nuts. He forbids criticism and puts 20,000 people in jail for political reasons. His political rival was once rolled into a carpet and was almost drowned. On the other hand, he gives the economy a boost. He builds plants and turns South Korea into an industrial monster. All of Korea starts to make coats, winter jackets. People are still living badly, but no longer like in a primitive society. The real economic leap happens with the gradual arrival of true democracy. The government invests in business, putting money in the 30 biggest companies by sector. Samsung for electronics, Hyundai for construction, Daewoo for car manufacturing, LG, gold star at the time, for appliances. The growth of the economy reaches 30% annually. This is called the South Korean economic miracle. Park Chung-hee, the Korean Stalin, was eventually killed after he tried for a third and fourth term and lost his mind completely. Guards on the street would measure the length of ladies' skirts and hair, but since then the country has not veered off the rails of democracy.
Смотрите, вот здесь сейчас идет голосование.
There's an election going on right here and now to elect the faculty president. You've got a whole committee, observers. People are coming up, they're leaving their IDs here. Then they go into a closed cabin to cast a secret ballot, and then it gets dropped into the ballot box. It'd be nice if elections were as organized elsewhere, huh?
Ну, это приучение к демократии, получается, да?
They're being accustomed to democracy, yes. Students have a very big influence at university. They could organize a demonstration, a protest for any issue. They're not penalised for this. On the contrary, they're encouraged. For example, a faculty can't be closed without the permission of the students. If the university fires a teacher, but the student liked him, then they also have the right. They go out to protest. Yes, they're not penalised for this. On the contrary, it's their right. How cool, huh? For us, it's something crazy, really. Students pay big money for their education. They're clients. so their opinions are respected. South Koreans protest against anything. Here people have posters against eating dogs. These are workers, tens of thousands of them, demanding that their salaries are raised. These are taxi drivers protesting an Uber-like app. The 2016 and 2017 mass protests against Park Geun-hye, the South Korean president, led to her resignation. Tell me, what will happen if you take to the streets in North Korea and say, I don't like the policies of Kim Jong-un?
Это все, это самоубийство.
That is suicide. Suicide. If you don't mention Kim Jong-un and protest some sort of policy, it's a risk, a big one. But direct opposition to Kim Jong-un and any member of the ruling clan of Kim is suicide. Kim Jong-un is an intelligent, pragmatic and very cruel man. He can have dinner with someone, wish him good night, make a phone call to the head of his security and give an order that that person be killed as he exits the building. We're in the very heart of Seoul, and I've decided to pull off a bit of a prank. I went to stand in the middle of the city wearing a North Korean track jacket. It's even got the North Korean flag on it right here. I want to see how the people will react. In my next program, I will meet with the nurse of Kim Jong-un's closest people. All of the medication that the UN sends doesn't go to simple people. They'll never get to see them. The medication goes to the generals protecting Kim Jong-un. The woman, who's my age, will tell us of her escape from North Korea with bullets literally flying past her.
물이 여기까지 왔어요.
We were crossing the river and we had a deal that if the light hits us, we'd hide underwater. I'll also show you the police reaction to seeing the North Korean flag on me in the center of South Korea.
О, полиция едет, смотри.
Oh, the police are coming. Have a look. They even turned on their siren.
Люди, прежде чем расскажу, как вы...
People, before I tell you how to win these goodies, let me summarize a bit. At the beginning of the program, I asked you which Korea you'd like to live in. Of course, I'd never want to live in North Korea. But would I want to live in South Korea? I'll be honest and tell you that before I visited, I was sure that the answer was yes. But now I need to think. I probably would want to live there with the condition that we add a small pinch, just a fraction of what they've got in North Korea. Don't think now that North Korean special services found me and made me say this. No, it's just that the world is not black and white. It's not categorical. There's nothing extremely awesome and nothing extremely bad. Everything is much more complex. Personally, I'm for capitalism. I consider it to be the most honest way of existence. Even if you're born poor, you can get yourself together. You can learn, mobilize yourself, and break free from this slavery. Because slavery also exists in capitalism. Social slavery, where you work for the boss and get paid pennies. But you can break free from it. In capitalism, unlike in North Korea, you can break free from slavery in North Korea only by dodging bullets. In South Korea, the issue is the price you need to pay to break free. It's something that you have to pay for as well. What's more important for happiness? A shitload of cash? To live in a skyscraper in the city centre? To have an amazing car? But at the same time work like a motherfucker for 13 hours a day? And not see your family, your children or anyone? Or live in North Korea under conditions of some illusory stability, as if the government is providing you with something, but in the end, it still fucks you over. Look at North Korea. You can't even use a card to pay here. Out of these two choices, I will definitely choose the first one, because I can at least become free there in some sort of way, at least make some money by the end of my life, and have the right to say what you want and do what you want, etc. You can't do that in North Korea. The only way to achieve freedom is by running away from there. So I definitely choose the first option. But I so want to come home in the evening. Not after a 13-hour shift, but to be at home at least by 8 PM and to have someone wait for you at home. At least an hour before you did.
Так, теперь к розыгрышу. Значит,
now on to the giveaway. Today we're giving away the soju that we tried. This one is grapefruit flavour though. It was given to me by the wonderful Yulia, who, along with her friend, took me to the demilitarised zone. I've also got this hat with the symbol of the Olympic Games that took place in 2016. These wonderful socks with Mario that I also brought back. Don't worry, nobody wore them. They just got a bit crumpled during the flight. This time we have a creative assignment. Subscribe to my Instagram. Everybody who wants to participate in this giveaway should have a post on their Instagram of how you're watching the people. Subscribe to my Instagram. All you have to do is put a post on your Instagram of how you're watching the people. The most unusual groups, the most unusual places, we'll choose 3, and we'll send the gifts to the winners via Russian post. With your grandmas, your mums, I don't know, somewhere, anywhere that you're watching, take a shot of yourself watching. The 3 most unusual and awesome groups or unusual places, maybe you're watching as a class or some other way, will give you these gifts. Don't post stories, but do actual posts to allow us to find it all. We're accepting entries until February the 10th. On February the 10th, we'll have a stream on my YouTube where we'll give away these gifts. We'll name the winners. I am Lyadov with How People Live. Subscribe and love you.